Now, what is a spirit attachment? There's many different identities when it comes to that, and we'll explain that here shortly.
Hello, this is Andreas and Heidi from Hyperspace Connection. Today we will be explaining a part of our work that is called the spirit releasement therapy. So let's go into it, deep into it. Heidi, explain our audience, maybe in a short manner, what spirit releasement therapy is in regard to the hypnosis work that we do.
Well, a lot of times clients will come in with certain conditions or problems or emotional issues, and what comes up in the session is not what was expected. So when someone goes through in their life through emotional issues, addictions, all of a sudden out of nowhere starts developing these things, it could possibly be a spirit attachment. Now, what is a spirit attachment? There's many different identities when it comes to that, and we'll explain that here shortly. But a lot of times, if the client or a person is in a lower vibration frequency due to an emotional disturbance, where they might feel numb, or they have had trauma in their life, or there's a lot of stuff going on within their internal self, a lot of times this is when the spirit or the energy will enter into the energy field of the client.
Mm-hmm. And if I may explain, there are a few different so-called spirit attachments. One is the Earthbound Spirit, so deceased people, humans that die, and obviously get caught in that between world, between the 3D world that we are here experiencing and the mid and upper level of the astral levels. There are different names that are used for that, but we call it that lower astral level. It's supposed to be an area where earthbound spirits can be caught because what we just said, either because of an emotional state while they dying, or it happened so fast that they basically didn't recognize what happened, and then they're this almost dream-like state. It's almost like when you wake up in the morning. You can imagine that, like, you wake up in the morning and you're between that dream and awake state. So you're not really aware that you actually have a body, that you are somebody, but you're aware that something is going on. You're aware of yourself somehow. So I would say it's similar to that state. So the earthbound spirits are out there, and as they are still have attachment to the earth plane, either a person, that they maybe still have some work to do, or they feel some guilt or other
Or like a
emotions.
deceased loved one that's passed on, and maybe there's been some conflict or unresolved issues.
Yes.
And they decide to stay here and become attached to that person.
Yes.
And then that person can actually experience a lot of issues that the deceased loved one had.
Like,
and that can become an addiction as well.
Like, let's say somebody had an alcoholic addiction to alcohol. This person died, didn't move on to where this soul or person should be, and stays back, let's say, around the family, and even can start to affect that person and become an alcoholic too. We could go much deeper into it, but we're not going to do that with that video, just explaining a little bit roughly. So what's the second major part of attachments that we observe in our sessions, in your opinion?
Well, I would say there's also energies that maybe not have been on this plane. So whether you want to call them an ET, extraterrestrial, another life form, that can actually be influencing the client in many different ways, more of a control thing. So we've seen that a few times, and that can be sometimes, I feel, more difficult to remove in some way, because there's such an attachment to that person. It's almost like even when they are removed, the client feels a little bit of sadness, almost like they've lost a friend. And that's normal, and that subsides eventually, but because this energy's probably been with them in this lifetime and possibly in a past as well.
Yeah, and that grief could happen as well with earthbound spirits,
Yes.
like deceased loved ones, that when you remove them, that suddenly feel like something is not with you, that you thought it was a part of you, or it was actually you. Behaviors, feelings, emotions, and then suddenly they're gone because they were in the first place not even yours. So the same thing with ETs. And then the third, oh yeah, you have something to say?
Well, and I just started thinking too, as though these energies that you don't have to, like family members, it could be someone that you don't even know.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so especially if this person has passed on and they were addicted to a certain drug, you know,
As an example, drug would be other stuff too.
medications or whatever, and they might have passed on through suicide through medication or whatsoever, and don't even realize that, and they crave that. So then they try to find that with a human energy
to fulfill that desire that they had beforehand.
So that specific human energy probably has a little bit of an addiction, and it becomes worse over time because of that as well.
So Heidi, we just talked about earthbound spirits that could have different effects on the still living. And about the ETs. The whole ET group as well has different aspects to it, so you're not going to go deeper into that right now, even if it's really interesting. And there's this third part when we have clients that we observe. And in our work that we do together, actually we see that quite often in different intensities. So what is that third part that is, for most people, more a little bit almost like a scary thing? So, but we see it every day in our work. So what is it?
So basically what it is it's a negative energy attached to a person. Okay, a lot of times you'll see these in maybe movies, or they might call them dark forces. And with these energies, they are entrapped. So we actually, when we're working with them, treating them just like a regular person instead of casting them away into wherever they need to go. And they're lost just as well. So they're an energy that probably has been with the client a very long time as well. Again, through past lives, ancestries. It could be passed on from an ancestry, from a relative as well, especially in times of abuse. This tends to happen quite a bit.
Because it's related with violence and traumas, deep traumas. Yeah.
So
they open up in their energy field.
So through physical or sexual abuse, they can attach to that person as well.
It doesn't have to be just that. It could be just without sexual or whatever abuse that those dark forces can attach.
Yes.
So what is the one that we mostly encounter in our work right now? There are different ones, but which one is the ones that we encounter mostly?
We find, and also through doing these surrogate sessions as well, that there is a specific energy that many would call a demon.
Demons, just
so, and
use the word.
It's just the reality. That's what we associate them with. Not saying that's what it is, but that's very, very similar to that. So if we wanted to put a name to it, that's what it would be. So this happens, in some sessions that we've done. And it's a very powerful thing, especially afterwards. It's you see the client and the difference it makes within their physical, mental, and spiritual reality.
It changes a lot for them.
So they might have done things repetitively, couldn't figure out why I'm so compulsive in certain things, or addictions as well, or attracted to certain things. That could be porn or anything else that this energy is being influencing them as well.
So when we take those three, and there are more influences, but we can stay to those more as the idea of entities, an entity, an energy form. It could be a human soul, that's an entity as well, if you want to name it like this. So there are three different major categories, and then there are some other influences. So what they have in common is they have all an influence on the, let's say, living person. Okay, that influence can be from very devastating, really bad for health, mental health, emotional, physical health, or it can be extremely subtle as well. The idea is then that when a person comes to us, we evaluate the case, we have a questionnaire, and then from there we go and we will, up until now, we have been successful 100%. Nobody or nothing resisted completely to remove that energy or that entity from our client. That's the basic job that we then need to do.
Yes. And, it's not all the time this happens, but the majority of people walking on this planet has had or has now a form of an attachment.
Yes.
So it's very, very common.
Well, thank you very much for watching, and we wish you a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.